Hello, my name is David Deloy, and this is my informative speech for Communications 101. Joshua Grubbs writes in the 2023 Winter American Journal of Public Health. A recent U.S. sample found that 10.3% of men and 7% of women at least somewhat agree with the statement, I am addicted to pornography. Speaking from personal experience, these numbers, at least for adolescent males, are far too low. For my friends in high school, I was one of two to not regularly view pornography. A form of media left undiscussed and unresearched for years is now being focused on as the effects are being brought to light. Pornography is damaging to the relationships and the consumer of this media. It affects the brain, causes distancing, and creates a vicious cycle in marriages or long-term relationships. For males specifically, this is not a singular moment that doesn't affect the rest of their lives. This has ramifications and leads to other issues. During Bible camp going into my freshman year of high school, they had a speaker for the week talk about sexual immorality and pornography addiction. This didn't just go in one ear and out the other. From the insight provided by him, as well as my parents growing up, I decided to abstain completely from pornography, but still being proud that I've never viewed it to this day. So you might be asking, why is the kid who's never watched a single minute giving an informative speech on it? I've seen firsthand in close relationships the deep effects it has on everyone who takes part in it, either frequently or infrequently. I've seen long-term relationships and even marriages, friends wrapped into depression and anxiety, and most commonly, objectification and a lack of satisfaction in relationships. So the first piece that is of utmost importance, how does pornography affect the brain? Todd Love writes in the fall 2023 of Behavioral Sciences. He introduced an additional component of tolerance in that previously established brain maps for natural sexuality cannot compare to the newly developed and continuously reinforced maps generated by and continued compulsive watching of internet pornography, and thus the addicted individual progresses to more explicit and graphic internet content in order to maintain the higher level of excitement. A common misconception made is that pornography can increase sexual satisfaction with partners, but that is not the case. While this is possible, it is far more likely that it will cause new pathways to be created that will not be able to be reached in natural sexual intercourse. So, sexual intercourse or watching pornography affects the dopamine pathways. So, when it is watched, new pathways for dopamine are reached, which is damaging if those aren't to be able to be reached in natural sexual intercourse, which is what this article is talking about. In a similar sense to drug use, the nature of needing to get a greater high, the same is here. The satisfaction is difficult to reach with these new pathways, and it will continue to need to progress to reach the levels hoped for. This can lead to more unnatural sexual actions with potential for abusive type behaviors in intercourse as highlighted in the article as well. The second area of focus on the way that pornography affects the person is that it causes distancing and isolation. It is not an uncommon practice for individuals who disapprove of this action to still do it. It is extremely addictive in nature, but looks very unique to other addictions. It is nearly strictly personal and is isolated and not brought to light often, at least in most circles. Joshua Grubbs writes in Winter 2023 edition of American Journal of Public Health. Moral disapproval of pornography amplifies the links between use and self-reported addiction, and the use of pornography among those who find it morally wrong is also linked to greater incidence of depression, lower levels of happiness and sexual satisfaction, as well as greater general distress. That being said, it has been so normalized that most do not even view viewing pornography as immoral or even harmful. Even for those groups, this still causes distancing and isolation in the addiction. What is shown, these groups are viewed as wrong are more commonly linked to depression and general distress. Once the addiction begins, it continues the cycle that is really, really difficult to break free from. The normalization of watching pornography has hooked individuals viewed as immoral and caused significant life issues for these people as well. Such as here, someone who is in the dark, not really sure where they're going, isolated from the rest of the world. This next section relates to the effect of pornography viewing in relationships, such as marriages and long-term relationships. I'm sure I'm not alone, but I've heard way too many stories of fathers' addiction to porn causing toil and problems in their family, even divorce. This is a sad reality that I wish was not the case. So what causes this addiction to break up these relationships at large rates? Steve Inskeep writes as a researcher in 2017 for the Morning Edition. For example, it creates unrealistic in people's minds of how sexual relationships are supposed to function. It's also the case that porn can have a vicious cycle on relationships. When a relationship is going poorly, people turn to porn. Two key pieces. First, it creates unrealistic expectations and pictures. And second, a vicious cycle. The first piece connects to the brain pathways talked about earlier and how it is difficult to reach these sexual levels without becoming unnatural in the sexual intercourse. The cycle, though, is another idea that is very, very detrimental and causes the greatest damage. When things are rough, though, they instead of turning to porn, or instead of solving an issue, they turn to porn. This leads to more problems and struggles for the relationship, even causing things such as divorce or long-term relationships to end. To conclude, pornography is not a single moment that doesn't affect the rest of the viewer's life. It has profound effects on the brain, causes distancing, and crumbles long-term relationships. The inability to reach the same sexual satisfaction, the cultural normalcy causing those who view it as immoral to still fall victim, and the vicious cycle created all amplify the idea that pornography is truly damaging to all who view it. Thank you for your time.